class cocked-hat Viking sword. This particular sword is about 8 years old, so it's not a representation of what's available now, but it is an indication of just how tough armor class swords are. So let's get on with the review. I'll give you a closer look. This sword has a Petersen Type H hilt, has mild steel fittings, and a wooden leather-covered grip. It's of a very solid peened construction, which hasn't loosened over the years, and there's absolutely no rattling. The distance between the guard and the pommel is great enough that even with a fairly large gauntlet on, you can grip this sword very comfortably. One thing to watch out for with any sword made with a Petersen Type H is these points tend to be fairly sharp, or come to a very sharp point. So you have to grip it with a handshake grip, or instead of a hammer grip, so that that part doesn't rub against the heel of your hand. Onto the blade. On this particular sword, the blade is 70 centimeters long, which is different than what's currently available. On their website, they offer at least 5 different blade options, both in widths and lengths. The 2 lengths that they offer are 76 centimeters and 66 centimeters. The blade comes with this nice curve to it on the edge, so that you don't end up with chipping other people's blades, and your blade doesn't get chipped as much either. And I know this is factory because it goes right up into the guard, which is something that you wouldn't be able to change otherwise after the fact, because you'd be able to see that that little edge would be still square. It meets Viking's Vinland standards for edge thickness. If I take my edge or my sheet guide and I check it in the 8 gauge, which is 3.26 millimeters, it goes through. If I check it in the 10 gauge, which is 2.59 mil, it does not, which means it's around 3 mil, and therefore totally legal for Viking's Vinland. The point is, it actually thickens at the point, which is nice, so that it is less likely to pierce things when it's thrust. The point doesn't exactly come to a 180 degree arc, but it's very close. So unless the safety officer is being very sticky that day, this will pass as well. All of the steel used in armor class products is EN45 spring steel. It's a very resilient, high-wearing steel that can stand up to all the rigors of reenactment combat. It's a very good choice of steel. The unfortunate side of that, though, is that it's not a very corrosion-resistant steel. So you do have to clean off any fingerprints or any water as soon as possible, or else your blade will rutch or, in worst case, etch. The balance point and handling characteristics of this weapon. The balance point is about 5 inches from the hilt, which means that it is a little on the blade heavy side, but not so much so that it's awkwardly blade heavy. I think that is a very good representation of what a Viking Age sword would have been, because they were primarily slashing weapons. So you'd expect them to have a further forward balance point so that they had a higher impact. One thing I should mention is that I have used this sword and their Saxon pattern sword, as well as a scram that was made by them before, and they are a joy to use. They have appropriate characteristics where they feel like a Viking sword should, but they don't. They feel like there is a lot of control in them as well, so that you don't feel like you're going to accidentally hit somebody way too hard, because you can very easily pull back. I think that just based on how tough the swords are and the quality, the fit and finish on this must have been amazing when it was brand new, because it still has very clean lines, even though there's a little bit of damage here and there from other sword impacts. But it must have been a very beautiful sword when it was produced. I forgot to mention a few things. The first is cost. These swords are listed on the Armour class website at £180, which equates to about 340 Canadian dollars, which puts them in the sub 500 category, which means that pretty much anybody could afford one without too much trouble. And I would definitely recommend them just on the quality alone. I would actually put Armour class swords, specifically their 5-lobe pommel Viking sword, on my list to get, sort of my dream list, I guess, along with the Albion Berserker. But that's another story entirely. I will put a link to the Armour class website, their Facebook page, and the Armour class page on Cult of Athena in the description. Thank you for watching.